So we have a couple of really, really interesting updates coming out with the Las Vegas Raiders, specifically around the quarterbacks, and I want to talk about it. Yesterday, if you guys did not watch that game, Indiana beat the crap out of Alabama. I did not expect that to happen. I knew Indiana is a really good defense, right? A really, really good coach, but I didn't realize we were going to get that type of beatdown in which Alabama, essentially just got blown out, and Mendoza ended up coming out of the game. And, I watched this guy's tape yesterday. From yesterday's game, I watched it earlier today. The guy looks really good. I mean, statistically, he dominated, right? Obviously, 14 to 16, 208 yards, 3 touchdowns. The guy was on fire, but he was making passes that I feel like, NFL quarterbacks make these type of passes. And, of course, Mendoza did this in college. And it's easier in college, but if you can just watch some of these passes, to me, this looks really, really, really good. If this is the quarterback the Raiders can potentially get, I'm all for this. To me, yesterday, just watching that game, Mendoza looked really good, and this guy also beat Ohio State. I think just a couple weeks back. That game was really good as well for Mendoza. He made all the smart plays, and some people have said, Mendoza doesn't. He doesn't really elevate a roster, and I don't know if I agree with that based off of watching his tape yesterday. And for the Raiders, if you lose against the Chiefs, you have the number 1 overall pick. Even if you beat the Chiefs somehow, some people think Andy Reid might try screwing over the Raiders. You can still get the number 1 overall pick. Just a couple things that have to end up happening for the Raiders. But if the Raiders do end up going into this next game and they lose, they get the first overall pick. Fernando Mendoza is at the top of the list for me. Now, the Ole Miss quarterback also looked good yesterday. Some people are saying he could potentially... he's essentially skyrocketed a little bit. We'll see as the draft process continues. Some people think Dante Moore might be the number 1 overall quarterback. We'll see which quarterback ends up being the number 1, overall pick or which quarterback ends up leading when the draft time kind of comes around. Fernando Mendoza, to me, early on looks like the guy, but keep in mind, there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out, right? Carson Beck looks pretty good from Miami. He beat Ohio State yesterday. We've seen quarterbacks like Drew Aller in the past. We've seen quarterbacks like Garrett Nussmeier in the past look really good as well. And I know they've struggled a little bit this season, but the quarterback position's a weird position. You can get a guy that's maybe not as good in college, and he might translate into a really good quarterback as he gets into the NFL, right? Sometimes traits and processing and factoring in the team that a quarterback might be on could make a huge difference. Either way, Fernando Mendoza looked really good, but there's another thing that I want to kind of point out with this guy. And, one of the things that I think when you look at a quarterback like Geno Smith this season, he struggled with a bad offensive line. When he's blitzed, he's really struggled. Aiden O'Connell has always been poor against the blitz, even in the past, like Derek Carr was kind of bad against the blitz. I think this is one of the key things that kind of sticks out for me. He was blitzed 12 times yesterday, and this was a season high, according to ESPN Insights. And there might be a reason why teams don't blitz Fernando Mendoza, because he was essentially 8 of 8 for 161 yards and 3 touchdowns when he was essentially blitzed. That's incredible, and I bring this up because this right here is what the Raiders need, man. They need a quarterback that when you're going to blitz this guy, he can quickly get the ball out. He makes the smart decisions. He can move. He can create. Again, I think for the Raiders, this sets our franchise forward so much. Some people still don't think the Raiders are going to end up taking a quarterback. So, again, we'll see as the draft process kind of begins what we're hearing. I'd be shocked if they don't take a quarterback if they have the number 1 overall pick. But yesterday, some other news came out related to a different quarterback that the Raiders had. And remember, this is a guy that Tom Brady apparently said Cam Miller had a ton of upside. But yesterday, the Dolphins signed rookie quarterback Cam Miller off the Raiders practice squad. And they essentially added him to the active roster. And I want to just say this, for the actual player in Cam Miller, going from being a practice squad player to now being on the active roster, it does do a huge difference, right? He goes from being a practice squad salary guy to now an active roster salary guy. So he's going to get a huge bonus. So from that perspective, I'm happy that this ended up happening for him. But from the selfish Raider perspective, I'm not too happy. And I say this because, the Miami Dolphins have who I think is one of the top 5 offensive-minded coaches, right? Head coaches in Mike Daniels. He's one of the best football minds when it comes to offensive football. And for him, he could have brought in so many other quarterbacks. He could have brought in so many free agent quarterbacks. He could have potentially poached, every team has practice squad quarterbacks. So he could have poached a bunch of those guys, a bunch of free agents. There's college quarterbacks that, are free agents right now. Maybe they never really got a true opportunity. This guy could have picked over 100 different quarterbacks, but yet this offensive genius picks Cam Miller. To me, that's kind of interesting. Is there something with Cam Miller that Mike McDaniels kind of saw? Now, also keep in mind, he could have done this at any point this season, but he waited until now. And also keep this in mind, Quinn Ewers, the rookie that the Miami Dolphins drafted, he's looked pretty good, right? Like, he beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this most recent game. He threw 2 touchdowns, over 250 yards, no interceptions. The guy played a really clean game. And, over the last 3 games, keep in mind he's only started 2 of the last 3. The 3 games from now, he just kind of came in. He threw like 6-7 passes. He's looked good. He's made some really, really nice passes. So I find it interesting that the Miami Dolphins, who have this quarterback in Quinn Ewers, are now bringing in Cam Miller. And I don't think this is one of those signings where it's like, hey, we played this team coming up in week 18 and we need to prepare, so let's bring in Cam Miller to help us prepare. That doesn't make sense. The Dolphins season's over. It really doesn't matter if they win this next game or not. To me, this is just interesting, right? Because I feel like when I watched Cam Miller in the preseason, he looked pretty damn good. He looked pretty damn good in at least that first game. He struggled a little bit in the second game, but he made some really nice passes in preseason. There's some upside with this guy. And again, for Mike McDaniels, who's a really smart coach, to say, I want Cam Miller among these other 100 quarterbacks, it's just an interesting overall thought process for him to come in. Now, he officially is with the Miami Dolphins today. And he apparently went out there and he said that he wants to be a starter one day in this league. Added that he's a great processor. And there you guys see it, man. Cam Miller right there. Again, to me, it's just interesting, right? We'll see if Cam Miller ends up being a good quarterback. And I know a lot of Raider fans aren't going to actually care because the Raiders are going to end up probably drafting a quarterback in the first round. But I feel like this coaching staff and the general managers have, I don't want to say they've kind of messed things up, but like we got guys like Cam Miller who we could have seen him play for 6 straight games to end this season. Geno Smith did nothing for the Raiders at this point. We could have seen Cam Miller actually play. Honestly, if we benched Geno Smith 6-7 weeks ago, he could have potentially had more value in the offseason. It did nothing to keep Geno Smith there, essentially playing, right? If anything, his values kind of went down. Now, I still think some team might be willing to trade a pick for Geno Smith, given, if you're the Jets and you don't get a quarterback, would you rather take the 3rd or 4th quarterback, or would you rather take Geno Smith for another year as kind of that bridge? So I think there's teams out there that might still be willing to trade for Geno Smith. Also, injuries happen, so a team in the middle of the season could potentially want Geno Smith. But I would have much rather seen Cam Miller play these last 6 games to see if he has any sort of upside. And I say this, again, because of the fact that, Fernando Mendoza, even if we draft him, is not guaranteed to be good. What happens if in 3 years, Mendoza's a bust, but Cam Miller's a top 5 quarterback? Think about that. That could be an absolute wild situation. Again, it's probably not going to happen, but again, it is interesting nonetheless. And then, of course, we did watch Fernando Mendoza play yesterday. We'll see him as he continues over the college playoffs. It's been kind of a weird college playoffs. I didn't think Ole Miss would have won yesterday. Obviously, they ended up winning. Kind of weird. And, of course, even Ohio State obviously ended up losing yesterday, which I did not expect that to happen. Either way, let's wrap it up. There's just one other thing that I want to kind of talk about. Now, before we go forward, I want to talk to you guys about the future of sports. If you guys are into traditional sports books, you are being robbed. And I'm telling you guys need to get over to Polymarket right now. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean. Now, in the Polymarket app, one of the cool things I like is you can take a position at any moment of a game. So let's say right here you take the Colts versus 49ers who are playing on Monday Night Football. Let's say you put $100 on the Colts. Well, before the game, you see the odds, but as the game continues, those odds are going to change in real time. So if the Colts score a touchdown or kick a field goal, they go up, the odds change, and you can at that point sell your position. So you can profit on a moment of a game. The most recent game that the Raiders had against the Houston Texans, everybody thought the Raiders were basically out. They're down 2 possessions. I think there was maybe 8 minutes left in the game. And out of nowhere, Ashton Jeanty breaks a massive 60-yard touchdown, and the odds change in real time, right? You kind of see that happening. So Polymarket's different, right? They're not forcing all of your picks to hit. You can take a position whenever, you can sell that position whenever, which is why I'm highly recommending Polymarket. I think it's the future of sports. And right now, if you guys go sign up with Polymarket and use my code Raiders, they're giving you $10 for free. No deposit required. It is literally free money. Make sure you guys download the app, use my code Raiders. Let's get right back into the content. Either way, let's wrap it up. There's one other thing that I want to kind of talk about. Today, there's been some rumors about Patrick Graham potentially leaving the Las Vegas Raiders. And these rumors are starting because Patrick Graham's contract is obviously coming to an end at the end of this season. Now, obviously, if you guys have followed the Raiders and kind of some of the decisions we've made, some of the decisions have been very, very, very poor, right? We went and signed John Gruden to a 10-year contract. That wasn't a poor decision, but like that didn't last, right? At some point, the Raiders ended up firing him. And then we ended up bringing in Josh McDaniels, who had a reported 6-year contract, and I think that was at like $13 million a year or something like that as well. So, Josh McDaniels got a lot of money from the Raiders. He ends up getting fired after like a year and a half, and then then we go in with Antonio Pierce. That doesn't really work out. Now we're at Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll had a 3-year contract. He's probably going to end up getting fired at the end of this season. The Raiders have made some poor choices with their head coaches, and one of the things that I feel like has happened recently is Mark Davis maybe doesn't want to spend a ton of money and doesn't want to continue firing coaches. And with Patrick Graham, the fact that his contract ends, you're not firing this guy. This guy's going to get to walk. And then more than that, Patrick Graham can actually say, hey, I don't want to run the Pete Carroll scheme. On top of that, Pete Carroll will be fired if it's not this year. Next year, I might as well go find my own job somewhere else. And again, I think it's unfortunate because I think Patrick Graham, he's still a young coach. I think in the next 2 to 4 years, it's kind of like Dennis Allen at one point, right? The Raiders had brought this guy in, and he struggled with the Raiders. Obviously, he's a first-time head coach. But as he continued over the course of his career, he just got better and better and better. And this year, he's been phenomenal for the Bears. They have one of the best defenses. They forced like 36 or 37 turnovers, which is wild. It's a crazy amount of turnovers to force. I don't even know if the Raiders have forced 10 turnovers this season. But like, point is Patrick Graham, I think at some point is going to become a really good coach, and it's unfortunate that it's not going to be with the Raiders. And I know some people aren't fans of Patrick Graham, but if you guys really understand what happened with the Raiders, Patrick Graham was our defensive coordinator, I believe right as Josh McDaniels took over. I think he was the pick, and Josh McDaniels was here for a year and a half before he gets fired. Antonio Pierce takes over. He's the coach for the other year and a half, right? So Patrick Graham's here for 3 years. He built up his defense. And in the second year when Antonio Pierce took over, we had a top 5 defense at that point. If not, I think we had the best defense in the NFL for that 9-game stretch. And I think in the 2023 season when Antonio Pierce took over, I believe we were a top 10 defense to finish the season. So we had a top 10 defense in Patrick Graham's second season. Of course, in the third season, we ended up having some injuries, right? I think Christian Wilkins missed the entire season. Malcolm Koonce missed the entire season. To start the season, we had a bunch of injuries, right? And I don't think our starting unit in the secondary that was supposed to be play, I don't think they played together at all over the course of that season. And then coming into 2025, this could have been the year where Patrick Graham gets some of his players back. You bring back guys like Merrick and Hobbs and Spillane, and this is going to be now his 4th year with the same group of guys. And then here comes Pete Carroll, and he just kind of restarts, and he guts the entire team, and he's saying we're going to completely move forward and switch up the defensive approach. To me, it's unfortunate, right? Because I am a believer that Patrick Graham will be a good coach, and I think he is a good coach, and he'll continue to prove it at some point as we continue to go forward. So again, his contract is going to come due. I don't think the Raiders are going to bring him back. Hopefully the Raiders end up being able to find their next head coach. Hopefully it's Clint Kubiak, and if Kubiak's not going to come out this cycle, I would draft the quarterback, keep Pete Carroll for a year, even keep Geno Smith if you really want to, right? Maybe you can trade him at some point this season, at some point next season, and we'll have a new defensive coordinator if Pete Carroll's back, right? So we'll see what happens as we kind of go forward. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys' thoughts. Did you guys watch that game? What are your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza? How did he kind of look to you guys? Why do you guys think Cam Miller wasn't essentially kept for the Raiders? Some people have pointed out that the Raiders could have easily said, hey, Geno Smith's hurt, put him on the injured reserve, protect Cam Miller. Don't let this guy get stolen. The Raiders did not take that approach, and he ended up getting poached off our practice squad, right? So we'll see what happens as we kind of go forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.